Okay, so I'm going to do just a little bit of an introduction, and you can fill in all the gaps I'm going to leave behind.
Sure.
We've been seeing Matt at our meetings. Well, when we were having meetings, Matt was attending, so many of you may recognize his face. He's running for Robert's seat, actually, in the 27th House District. Matt is a native Michigander, and he's a Berkeley resident. He's always worked to help and advocate for those in his community. He's a licensed master social worker, and from that perspective, he's seen the problems of our healthcare system up close and personal. His experiences, both personal and professional, I think, have led him to the decision to serve the public. And that's not an easy decision to make, I'm sure. So Matt, I'm gonna let you take it from here and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you guys so much. Also, if I start to lag, just type something in the chat and let me know, and then I'll turn my video off. But I do like to see you guys, and I talk with my hands, so definitely you guys can see that. So again, my name is Matt Stoel. It's definitely interesting following my current state representative whose seat I would like to fill. So that is a privilege, actually. So Robert, I really appreciate you. So thank you. Before I kind of jump into stuff, though, I just want to say, it's hard during the pandemic. I think all of you guys have probably felt this before. Just kind of like the grind of being in it and hearing the news over and over and over. And, the last couple of days have been tough. And, I'm off. I'm not saying I'm off. My heart is heavy just because of the news that's coming out. I mean, recently we saw a police officer incident in Washtenaw County in Ypsilanti with an African-American woman. I'm sure all of you have heard about George Floyd in Minneapolis. We are all human, and every single person should be treated as such, and no one is better than another person. And, we have so much coming at us every single day, and to see those things happening and to see just the hatred and the injustice present. I don't know. It's just, it's taken a toll on me. I think I finally hit my breaking point today after seeing multiple videos, and I'm a social worker. It's my job to advocate for people. It's my job to fight against the injustice in our society. And man, that can be hard. It can be really, really hard to do every day. And, I hope that what we see and this feeling that everyone has leads us to action. Because, there's a lot of things going on around us. And even though this happened in Minneapolis and Washtenaw County and Ypsi, I mean, this stuff happens in our community and in our state. And so, what I really try to just remember is that feeling, that horrible feeling, that pit in your stomach that you get just about what's going on. And I don't know, today got to me. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I hope that you guys continue to do this great work. I will continue to do everything I can to advocate for people. And like Paula said, I live in Berkeley. I am a full-time school social worker downriver Detroit. I'm also a part-time youth director in the Berkeley area for some churches that share a youth group. So I have a full-time and a part-time job, and I'm also trying to run a campaign right now. So we're definitely staying busy. And as a social worker, I became a social worker because of its values, because the values that social work has align with my own personal values. We have 6 core values. The big ones I always talk about is understanding the importance of human relationships, seeing the dignity and worth of everyone. And the biggest one for me is fighting against injustice in our society. And the first time I took a social work class, I was hooked. I was like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. I want to be there for people. I want to build those relationships, and I want to try to help people and make our society what it should look like. And that feeling in your gut that you get, and I talk about this, often, is that feeling that you get when you see instances of police brutality or, the wildfires burning in Australia, right? That happened this year. or just things that don't sit right. And I say that's the dissonance that we have. That's that dissonance we're feeling of how the world is and how it should be. And so that's really why I came to be a social worker. I actually grew up on the west side of the state. And my mom is an administrative assistant. My dad was a car wash manager. And I grew up with two older sisters. And throughout the course of my life, my father passed away when I was in high school, when I was 16. But he was one of the nicest people ever. And I'm so thankful I had time with him. But he showed me the importance of relationships. I mean, he was friends with everyone. And my mom works really hard too. And so, even though that experience I had, I understood how important it is that we build strong relationships with people, because I mean, my dad, he could light up a room. And that's something that I remember about him. And so I really wanted to carry that in my professional career. And since I went to Calvin College and got my bachelor's of social work and psychology, and then went to U of M for my master's. But after that, I started my professional career as a medical social worker in Grand Rapids. And I saw all sorts of people. I worked with a lot of individuals that were suffering from mental health issues and substance abuse problems, and we would work with them. And I sat next to families who have just lost a family member. I mean, the doctor would come in and I would sit right next to them, and I would just be there for them and do what I could. And then I moved on from that position. I moved back to this side of the state. I became a mental health therapist for children and adolescents for a community mental health agency. And I did home-based therapy. So I helped families navigate our mental health system, and our children's mental health care system in Michigan in particular is difficult and sparse. And I did that for some time. And then, I also have my certification in school social work. So I went downriver, and I'm now a public school social worker, and I've been doing that for the last 3 years in a Title I school down there. And I work specifically with our special education population down there. So those experiences to me have shaped who I am, obviously, but they all line up with who I want to be and what I want to do, right? Because I really believe that we can push Michigan forward and make a more progressive Michigan, even if we don't have the Senate or the House, even though that's incredibly difficult. We can still advocate for that and really push for that, and make a Michigan that works for everyone if we listen and collaborate and advocate for one another. And that's why I'm running, because, as a social worker, it's my job to advocate for people, but I don't see it as a job. I see it as a reward for me. And I like to do that. I love to get to know people. I really love to talk to others. And I'm advocating for my kids and my families now, but advocating for the rest of this district would be something that I would love to do. And I would love to be embedded and hear what those concerns of our district is. And that's what we're doing as a campaign. We started about November. I started knocking doors a couple days after Christmas. Before COVID, I think I trudged through snow to knock about 2,500 doors throughout that time. And then since then, we've grown our team to over 10 people. We're making a ton of phone calls. I called Nina this afternoon, and I said, I'll see you later. And our campaign is focused on people, and it's focused on people's concerns. And in social work, we always talk about person-centered, and that's exactly what we wanted this campaign to be. We want it to be about people, and to know that we care about what their concerns are. What I've been telling my interns and my staff is, we're going to run a campaign based on people, listening to people, and doing whatever we can for those people during the time being. And if that means we get elected, we get elected. And if that doesn't, then we know we ran a campaign that we believe in, about really connecting with people. So, Robert talked about some of these things. Some of the big issues and concerns I would like to see addressed, is our education system. I'm in it now. Something that is difficult is that we have been continuing to fund our education system, and we've been increasing funding for it, but really at a disproportionate rate. With inflation over the last 15 years, we really are not putting enough money into our future. And to me, actions speak louder than words. So When we're not investing in our kids at a proper amount per pupil, we're really telling them we don't care. And that's not cool with me. That does not sit well with me. Every single kid I work with deserves a chance. And we honestly need more funding. And what's so difficult is now with COVID, it looks like we're gonna lose a ton of that. And that's the exact opposite of what we need. We need more space. We need more teachers. We need more sanitizer. We need more cleaning stuff. But now if we lose that money, we're gonna cut teachers and staff, extra administrative staff and paraprofessionals and things our students need. And so my whole thing, what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at how we're currently funding our education system and try to alter that and make sure that we increase our per pupil funding for our special education students, for our students that have English as a second language, and for our students in low-income communities, because we know those individuals need more support. I would love to see a base pay for teachers. I think coming out with a professional degree, a lot of teachers end up getting paid pretty low, and they have to take multiple jobs. And to me, if you're teaching our future, you shouldn't have to work another job at Target. I mean, you would be amazed at how many of my teachers that I work with have multiple jobs. So they literally work with middle schoolers all day, which is exhausting, and then go on and work on a retail job until the end of the night and do it all over again. And yet they still have to do lesson planning. And also with that, I mean, it's increasing our minimum wage. I mean, everyone should be having a living wage. My administrative assistants, they don't even make $15 an hour, and they run the school. And that's as a broad picture. I want to make sure that we value people's work, and we need to get that up there for people. And even if you look at it, $15 an hour, working 40-hour weeks for 50 weeks, you're only at like 28, 30 grand still, and that's very very difficult to live on. Another thing is to continue Rep. Wittenberg's progress on common sense gun laws. That's huge. He's made so much progress, and we want to continue to carry that torch. And another thing is to expand our healthcare as much as possible to cover as many people. We now are in a situation where really all of us will probably need healthcare in the near future. This virus has really shown a lot of disparities and issues with our healthcare system. So making sure that people don't have to pick between getting medicine and putting food on their table. I mean, it's a no-brainer. That shouldn't even be a topic of conversation, but yet it is for a ton of people. And for a lot of my families that I even work with, I mean, they decide that every day. And I get kids that come to school that don't get food. So that's a huge thing. Another thing that we really are passionate about is our climate. Climate change is obviously real. I'm sure all of you believe that in here, but not everyone does. And, I had the opportunity to grow up on the west side of the state, and Lake Michigan is beautiful. But more than that, we need to make sure that we are a leader. If the federal level isn't doing anything, if the federal government isn't doing anything, we need to be a leader for climate change, to combat climate change. We need to make sure that corporations that are polluting are held responsible for that. We need to make sure that, large corporations aren't just making billions of dollars off our natural resources. And to be honest with you, I believe that Michigan can take the lead on renewable energy. We are the motor city. I think we can get back there, just in a different way, with more energy efficient cars and not using fossil fuels. So those are the big ones that we really want to hit. A lot of these are pipe dreams when we don't have control of at least two parts of the government. But to me, it comes down to being an advocate. I've done it, before I was a social worker, while I'm a social worker, and as running for this office in whatever capacity that looks like. It's being an advocate for people, and it's breaking down those barriers for people to help them get to their goals. And being a voice. Today really made me realize that we need to be loud about some things in a very respectful way, in a way that we can build relationships. But there are so many things going on that are just not just. And, I come from a place of privilege. I'm a white male, and I see that, and I need to to be a good ally and use what I can do and do everything I can do to support people and make differences in people's lives. So that's kind of my spiel. I don't know. I was seeing some things pop up, so I don't know if you guys have questions or who wants to read those, or if I'll read them.
We'll guide you through that. Thank you, Matt.
Cool.
I've got a question just to start us off, but if anyone has a question, feel free to use the raise hand feature, or if you can't figure that out, just go like this and we'll pay attention to you. So it's quite a leap to go from social work and advocacy work to going to Lansing, especially with the images we've seen coming out of Lansing in the last couple of months. I mean, there's people wearing bulletproof vests in Lansing. How do you see yourself making that transition from being a social worker to being a politician in Lansing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And to me, it's a natural transition, right? Because a social worker works with people, and that's what our representatives are supposed to do. You're supposed to connect with the community. You're supposed to engage with people and advocate for them. So to me, although it's a different position and it seems different, I believe we need people from all different aspects of life, teachers, social workers, nurses, doctors, insurance salesmen, right, in our state legislature to make sure that it looks like the community that we're in. And so to me, I feel like it would be a good transition, and I would be able to do it because I can build those relationships with people just like I am as a social worker. It's just at a different level, less of a micro level, more of a meso and macro level. But I think it really comes down to building relationships. And Robert is a great example of this. I mean, he has amazing relationships throughout this district, and has been a great rep. And so, to me, it really comes down to staying with those values and understanding that everyone is human, understanding that everyone has worth, and that, we need to continue to progress forward and try to move Michigan a little bit further left. But at the same time, we need to build those relationships with everyone to at least get some progress through.
Great, thank you. And Chris, I think we have a question from the chat, don't we, Michelle? Michelle, did you want to ask your question?
Okay, yeah, I had actually viewed it myself before, but her question is, do you have any strategies to try to work with the Republicans? I guess work across the aisles.
I had this exact same question, I think, at the Huntington Woods Oak Park meeting. And I think my strategy is, again, to try to find common ground with people. A lot of times when people don't connect, we get so polarized, right? Because it's a you versus them. And it's easy. It's easier to do that. That's how our brains think. It's a natural way that we do that. But the best thing to do is to find common ground with people while still holding your values, but treating everyone as a human and as a relationship, right? And treating everyone as they have worth. I think that I'm not going to say it's easy. I won't know, but even thinking about it, I get worked up. But understanding and really trying to build those relationships and find common ground about, kids or jobs or anything, and to try to talk in a very respectful but powerful way to people to really, try to open up people's worldview. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of is, obviously a lot of things are being said without facts. So we want to definitely base things on facts. But we want people, we got to have the grace to know that it's hard to say, I don't know. It's hard to say, yeah, I messed up, right? And so I think coming in and having a humble approach to that, I don't know everything. I know a lot about mental health. I know a lot about schools. Definitely not as educated on insurance. So, I don't know everything, and that's something that I'm going to take and say, I don't know everything, but I'm going to talk to the experts about those things that other people know.
Great, thank you. Is there another question? Because I've got one.
Go ahead, Paula. You've got the floor.
Great. While y'all are thinking about it, I'm going to ask another one. So I'd like to ask this question of candidates. If you woke up on November the 4th, Okay, this is a dream state we're in now. And we had control of the House and the Senate in Lansing and the governor's seat. What's the first issue you would work on?
Oh my gosh. I think the graduated tax would be something that I believe that we need to get there. And so I think it doesn't seem like the most glamorous, but I think that would make the most long-lasting impacts on our communities for sure. And again, I'm not a tax expert. I have a hard time running my own budget in my own life, but again, that would be my choice, I think.
Great, thank you. Well, if you need someone to move into your district, I think Debbie Rosenman will move into your district to vote for you. Very happy with your answer. Thank you. All right, folks, any other questions out there?
Oh, I'll try one. Well, Matt, you've probably heard a lot, before the pandemic hit about trying to get mass transit really up and running. And of course, now with the pandemic and us not knowing when it'll be safe to be in close quarters to travel, what do you think would be a good strategy going forward in the state legislature on public transit versus, I guess, electric cars? Some way to allow people to still travel to work and wherever else they need to go to, and yet keep people healthy and not tax the environment any more than we have already.
Yeah, our public transit system in the United States and in Michigan especially is not great, as we already know, right? And I know that now that we have a new Oakland County executive and we're moving to a new phase, we're going to try to make that a little bit better. With COVID, that changes everything. Obviously we need to continue to follow Governor Whitmer's orders, and I think she's done an amazing job, and we need to continue to practice social distancing for as long as possible. But with that, we need to understand that our actions still have consequences on our environment, like you said. So ultimately, I would like to see a stronger transit system, again, in the Tri-County area. Even into Washtenaw County, into Ann Arbor, if possible, I think that would be really fantastic. How that happens, that's a great question. But going back to my view of being kind of the Motor City, kind of reclaiming that to electric vehicles. It looks like they're up and up, and that's a trend that we're starting to see. My parents used to think they were like ridiculous cars, right? And they're not. Like, I don't know why they ever thought that, but the perception of cleaning up our environment and making sure we're taking care of future generations and protecting it has changed. So I guess the short answer to that is increase public transit, try to increase more infrastructure for it, while still focusing on, increasing, renewable energy and different alternatives for personal transit too.
Thanks.
All right, folks, get them while he's hot. Be sure you don't have any more questions. Robert.
Throw my website in here a second.
I think Robert should ask you a question. What do you think? You don't often get this opportunity in a candidate interview. Robert, what do you think? Or words of wisdom?
Well, I don't want to tell him, I don't have I could go on forever. And I actually, I know Matt, I met him on the campaign trail. He actually reached out to me to sit down and chat, and I give him tremendous credit for that. And I know his heart's in the right place, and that's why he's out here running. And of course, my internet connection is unstable again, but hopefully you can hear me. But I know his heart's in the right place. What's that?
I said, we're not taking that as a personal thing against you, your instability of your internet. Don't worry.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go back to that. But no, I think Matt is hitting on the right things. Obviously, the two big issues for me have been the graduated income tax and gun violence prevention, and I'm happy to hear that that's part of his plan if he were to be elected. He's doing the work, right? The most important thing is you want someone who is willing to do the work, because no one, you know, the one thing I came in with the same kind of thing. I worked in insurance, right? So I knew a little bit about everything, but not a lot about everything. And as a legislator, you are literally dealing with everything, every single thing that impacts people in the state. You are working on it. And so it's really important that you want to vote for the person that you can trust, someone that shares your values, someone that you know is going to fight for you in Lansing. And so I think that's really important. So, you know, I think Matt's a really good guy. I think there's, you know, he would do a good job. There's some other candidates that are in the race. Obviously, I'm staying out of the race, but I think we have some really good people running. And I think it boils down to picking the person you think that, you know, that represents, you know, that shares your values and that, you know, is going to go and do the work that's necessary, right? Because this is the most time-consuming job I've ever had, but I love it, right? I mean, I love helping people, and I love getting out there and meeting people, and I'm always the last person to leave every event I go to, because I try to make sure I chat with every single person. So it's important that you are looking at someone who is really does care about people, and obviously, you know, being a social worker, we know that, you know, that Matt actually has that background. So I think that's really important. So I don't know, I guess if I were to ask a question, it would be more on the campaign related side, right? Because again, I think Matt has, you know, I think he's smart. I think he cares. I think he's hardworking. But on the campaign side, like what has been, obviously you were out going door to door. I think you were the only candidate that was out going door to door. And what has the shift been like as you're now doing everything remotely, online, phone, all that? You know, what's that experience been like? I mean, obviously I'm in the same boat as you, but I'm curious.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I know you're not taking sides either, so I appreciate it. Yeah, so my campaign, the way I wanted to run this campaign was about people. I never wanted it to be about raising the most money. I'm not a big fan of money in politics to begin with. So my vow to myself was I was going to out knock and out call and just outwork people because I'm dedicated. So yeah, I mean, I trudged through. You know, we've made over 9,000 calls so far. We continue to build our team. But I would say it's a disadvantage for me that we can't be out knocking because at this rate, I'm looking at like my board of precincts that we hit, and I think I've got through about 4 of like 40 in our district. So that definitely, it's been difficult. And to me, to be perfectly honest, fundraising is the hardest part for me. I have a hard time asking people for money, especially when we're in a primary with 8 people. You know, it's not something, and we're in the middle of an economic crisis. So again, we are running this campaign on a person-centered approach. So that just means we're going to make more phone calls to you. So I'm sorry if we continue to call you more than once to ask for your support and your vote. And to be honest with you, you know, the way COVID's going, it doesn't look like it's safe or appropriate to be out knocking in the near future at all. So, you know, we're going to put that in the bag, and that just means we have to do more stuff digitally with social media, calling, you know, events, and really word of mouth is a huge thing. So if any of you guys, my last thing is if any of you guys want to get involved, please reach out to me. You can go to my website and you can sign up, or you can use my cell numbers up there. But we can always use more phone bankers. We can use people in whatever way possible. And if you want to make a donation, you may gladly do that as well. But I really appreciate you guys listening, and you know, I hope you see my passion for people. It's not necessarily it's just I want to help people, and I want to make people's lives better. So however I can do that, I want to do that. So I appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate your service and making this really difficult life decision to run for elected office, especially now. I mean, it's, as you said, you've got some hurdles, but it just makes it more interesting and builds character, I understand. So you're going to have a ton of character if you didn't already have some. So thank you. We really appreciate you being here with us tonight.